by Chae-jun. The header is good, and it's the giant defender John Tae-wook, and eventually Korea have broken the deadlock.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Ryan Walters in the K-League United bunker. You know what? The Kim Do-hoon bunker. Let's call it what it is. And I am joined this week by a festive Matthew Binns with the tree in the background.
Hello.
And it's George Slade again.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, we've swapped Paul for Matthew, and largely to get that tree in the background. And when did you put the tree up, Matt? When do the Christmas decorations go up in Casa de Binns?
I mean, normally they don't go up until another week or so, but
okay.
I got dangerously bored at the weekend. I mean, there's no reason to be that bored given the playoffs that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, I did, and I got a bit bored, and well, here we go. There it is. The tree's up. So yeah, but no, the jumper. We had talks before we came on, and we agreed that I had perhaps gone a bit too far with the jumper. And mulled wine as well. Like we had to put that away.
Hey, 'tis the season, man. I think it's just because George and I went the sporty spice route here instead. Mm-hmm. So to bring back the Spice Girls conversation again.
Yeah, it's been really popular, that Spice Girls conversation.
Yeah,
really good comparisons. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe. Well, you missed the empty net that George is clearly Baby Spice on the last one. Given the references.
Where were we with that one? But, yeah. Well, you know. Anyway, George, Christmas decorations up?
We put one thing up, and then there's been took a break. So soon it will get festive here.
You put the one thing up. Whew. All right. Well,
it's a
job done.
Busy day.
Yeah. All right. Well, they're up here. They're up very high here, so the K-League cat can't get to them. He's trying, but they're out of reach for him. But anyway, the holiday season is here, which means that K-League 2 is now finally done and dusted. The K-League 2 playoffs have finished up, and that's where we're going to start our conversation today. We're going to talk about both of the games in the playoffs and just a touch, just a little bit of controversy in both of those games, which, we could have had an entire show just on VAR, VAR, the cancer that is. Clearly tipping my hand on that one. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about something that's a little bit more fun, at least for two of the three of us here. We are going to be talking about AFC Champions League, where one K-League team has already been eliminated, Matthew.
I know. Guess who? It's going to be. It's not who you think.
It's not Suwon, even though they've scored one goal, and good on them anyway. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the round of 16, although it's still unknown at this point. So we'll kind of just be assessing what we've seen from K-League teams so far, and maybe a little bit about some of the other leagues here and there, because I think both the Thai League and A-League kind of took a battering on the interwebs in those first couple of games. And, they've kind of come good in some of those. So talk about that. And then we've got some questions in the Ilgi Luis mailbag at the very end. So just a simple one this week, we think, but we are going to be talking about VAR. So we'll see how that goes. But gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started with the K-League 2 playoffs. Let's start in, can't call it the first leg, the first round. And this one finished Gyeongnam FC 1, Daejeon Hana Citizen 1. And the talking point here is VAR, but we're gonna get into that. Before we get into that, George, you have suffered through a lot of Bucheon this year, and you've watched a lot of K-League 2 this year. Did this result, if you just look at the result, and again, we'll get into the controversy. If you just look at the result, does this seem right to you? Does this feel like the right team moved on?
I mean, yeah, if just looking at the results, knowing no information about the game at all, then yeah, I would say it's pretty fair, actually. I think that I know we're going to talk about it, but despite any of the controversies, somehow it's ended up kind of right, but, shouldn't go that direction with VAR. But I think overall it was right that Gyeongnam progressed, but maybe not based on the actual match itself.
Yeah, the actual match itself was a pretty back and forth affair, and I mean, yeah, it was entertaining. Edinho had Daejeon up early, and Daejeon had to win this game. For those that don't know, and we are going to talk about this as well, in the K-League 2 playoffs, the higher-ranked team, in this case the home team, they only need a draw to advance, which is why Gangnam FC advanced here. So Edinho had them up early in the second half, 60-minute mark, and then Ko Kyung-min draws things level. And Matthew, let's just get into this, because this is what we have to talk about with this match. It looked like Daejeon had the winner. It looked like they had the winner. But
well, are we not going to address the first VAR?
But then Bruno Baio missed the penalty.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's multiple VAR calls in this one. The first one was advantage to Daejeon, which was the penalty. Handball, right call. It was a very tough one, because it looked like it hit him in the face at first glance. But yeah, the penalty was given. Bruno Baio steps up, scores, gets pulled back, rightly so. Higuero encroaching into the box before the ball had been struck. So it had to be retaken, and then Bruno Baio unfortunately missed the second penalty. So continued as it was, and then we had another VAR call at the end, which is the one that is grabbing the headlines more, yes. Which, and I'm sure it's the one you're probably getting at, is, well, Bruno Baio looked like he had scored again, ran off, celebrated, delirium amongst the players, and it got called back. The ref went to VAR, went to his ear, went to the TV, spent an awfully long time analysing the incident, and it was ruled out for a foul in the box.
Yeah, because Chae-Jun fell down next to a bigger person. I mean, to me, this one is... I have rage-colored eyes here. I'll just say that in general for VAR for this entire segment. But, I mean, to me, and Paul wrote a tremendous piece about this. It's up on the site right now. This call, you alluded to, it took a long time. It took 2 minutes and 37 seconds and 28 separate viewings of the incident. That's not a penalty then. Like, that's not a foul. Yeah. Like, we're done at that point. The ref is there. He's looking at it. He doesn't call it in the moment. And then he takes over 2.5 minutes and 28 views and then decides, oh, you know what? Yeah, okay. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous that this is the point that our sport has gotten to. And Dan talked about this on Twitter as well, that when the referee gets it in their ear that there was a penalty, maybe there's a penalty, they need to go look at it. Then when they go to that TV, they're looking for it and saying, okay, where is the penalty? I need to find the penalty. And that's why these things are taking so long. If it's taken 2.5 minutes, no. We're done. Sorry. I just don't, I don't like this. I don't have any problem with Gyeongnam moving on. And like, this is the second week in a row that the result isn't really what bothers me, because last week, George, you and I talked about this with Jeonnam and how there should have been a handball against Seoul Eland in that one, and how Julian Christopherson's left earlobe was technically offside. And that's why he had one of his like 7 million goals called off in that one. But this one, am I just too far gone on this one?
No, I think it's the thing. The problem is that the actual call itself, it isn't as like outrageous of a call as it's being made out to be. But that's because it's one of those kind of soft ones where we've seen given in the past, but we've seen them given in the days before VAR, when it is a ref making a decision in the moment, and then later you look at it and you go, oh, that's kind of soft, or it's like 60-40, 70-30, but the ref made a decision in the moment. And I think what makes it worse is the fact that it isn't like a super outrageous poor decision, but it is when you consider the fact that, yeah, he's actually looking at it again. Like, I don't see how it can take that long to make a bad decision.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Matthew.
No, I was actually, George pretty much said what I was going to say there. I didn't actually think the call was that bad. I didn't think it could have been given. It could have been given. It could not have been given. It was just it could be seen as a foul.
Yeah.
But again, as you said, like you're looking at it for 2 minutes, you're seeing it more and more as a foul, perhaps, and then therefore it is eventually given. But yeah, the call I didn't actually think was that outrageous. It was just.
Well, to me, it falls under. I want the refs to be a human element of the game. I don't want offsides called to the millimeter. I don't want these kind of fouls that take 2.5 minutes and 28 viewings to recognize. I don't want the game called that way. I want there to be a human element. I want the referees. I want them to make mistakes live when it's happening live. I hate this idea that they don't have to make the call. And we'll talk about this in a second because there was another one in Suwon versus Gyeongnam. And again, Paul wrote about this and has a good quote for us. So I'll save it for that. But to me, VAR, again, it's taking power away from the referees and it's making them more trepidatious and less sure of themselves, which is what I don't like. If they call that in the moment, I don't think this bothers me nearly as much as the very end of the game taking over 2 minutes to go on and do it. But anyway, we've gone a little bit long. We're not done ranting about VAR. Don't worry. We're not done there because we move on to the playoff final. And this one finished Suwon FC 1, Gyeongnam FC 1. And we'll also talk about the playoff format in K-League 2 here. But this one, again, another back and forth match. Chae-jun gets on the scoreboard for Gyeongnam in the first half. A slight deflection, but love Chae-jun. Love his audacity to shoot. Good on him there. And it looked like Gyeongnam was set to get promotion, join Jeju United, and coming straight back up after being relegated last year. And when I say it looked set, I mean it looked done and dusted because they fended off a Suwon attack deep into stoppage time. And then they went the entire length of the field, and Park Ki-dong had a shot on net that went out for a corner from a deflection. And then the referee gets in his ear. And then in the 100th minute of the game, An Byung-jun steps up, converts a penalty. Good on him, by the way, because I'm sure the nerves in that moment were awful. Again, don't have a problem with Suwon being promoted. I don't have a problem with Suwon winning this game. It's how it happened. It's how this one happened. And to me, my biggest thing in this, Park Ki-dong's on a breakaway. If he goes and scores that, then what happens?
Well, it gets ruled out and they give the penalty.
That's absurd. Like the referee's there looking at it. He's looking at the play, decides not to call it. And Todd Wild was at the game. He's in the comments right now saying that none of the Suwon fans surrounding him in the stands were even shouting for a pen at that moment. It goes all the way back down. If Gyeongnam goes 2-0 up and then we're calling it back, like what are we doing? What are we doing?
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
But, no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I always seem to side with controversy, and I don't really want to.
Yeah. Do it. Yeah.
Well,
that's what you're here for.
I mean, okay. I think it's a penalty. Let's just go with it.
Can't even do it.
No. I just want to say it's a foul. It's a tough one. It's a correct decision. Jung Sun-ho went to ground after being fouled. I think it was a penalty. Again,
that's a yellow for simulation, man. That is not a salmon swimming upstream. Right. You know. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Sorry. Go.
Well, my biggest problem is I don't think anything will change. Like it doesn't mean nothing's going to change. Everyone loves a VAR run, and a week will go by, 2 weeks will go by, and this will be forgotten about. The rest of the world is using VAR. More and more leagues are going to use it, so nobody's going to drop it. It's only going to get used more often. It's not going to go away. And the thing is, if people really, really don't like it, there is always one way to get football teams' attention. And it's not something I want to say when I want to promote the league, but you make your vote with your ticket. If this is something you fundamentally disagree with in the game, then don't watch it. But unfortunately, I don't think VAR's going anywhere.
There's got to be a middle ground in there.
No, there is. I mean, there is middle grounds. There are compromises. The things can be improved, and I would like there to be, genuine research into ways this could be made better. Perhaps, we could put time limits on how decisions are made. Perhaps we can, we can get rid of some of the necessary call, like offsides. Now, I don't think it should be as called as closely as it should be, but I think offsides are a decision that can be clear cut in terms of you're off or you're on. Okay. Now there has to be some minor tweaks there, because not all the parts that are being called as offside should be called as offside. There has to be some margin for error installed there, but that is something that can be clear cut, and that is something where VAR could make a difference. It's a difficult. I mean, I like goal line technology. That's nothing to do with VAR. I think that's a perfect thing. I don't know why K-League's never taken goal line technology. I think many leagues have skipped it in favour of VAR, where I think there's no reason why you just can't have both. I was tired before VAR of discussing bad refereeing decisions. I am still discussing bad referee decisions, but we're talking about it after VAR. For me, personally, it's just kick the can a bit further down the road. It's just move the goalpost back. You're just like, well, we're still having the same conversations down the pub about the same incidents, but now we're talking about it in a different way. That is a really bleak way of looking at football, I know, but that's just how it is for me. I'm just kind of, it's a shrug now for me.
Simon Hill put this pretty well on Twitter recently, saying that we used to have the simplest, most beautiful game, and now we're talking about squiggly lines and diagrams and everything else.
Yeah.
To me, one of the major issues is that it's disrupting the flow of the game. And again, we don't need to go any further than this ridiculous playoff match where Gyeongnam, the ball goes out for a corner and the referee calls the corner in like the 96th minute because he knows that he wants to go to VAR. Gyeongnam should be able to celebrate the game and be done at that point. But instead, yet again, we watch the referee go to their ear and then dread sits in. I mean, like, how far are we going to take this? Like, we can't even celebrate goals anymore. Like if your team scores, oh, yay, I hope every single millimeter of every single aspect of every play in the 2 minutes leading up to that was perfect, because if not, then everything's going to be called back. But again, I'm going long, and George, I'm going to throw this over to you here. There was one quote that Paul had in his piece from IFAB, the International Football Association Board, that the referee must always make a decision. The referee is not permitted to give a no decision and then use VAR to make the decision. A decision to allow play to continue after an alleged offense can be reviewed. So to me, the key thing there is that the referee must make a decision. And that's my problem with these two games, is that the referee's right there. They saw it and they didn't make a decision. And then they go to VAR. And that's the issue for me. But George, I'm gonna give you the final word here, because I've definitely shouted enough.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, because then that means that it's not even a VAR decision. It's it's the referees still. They're not following the rule there, and that's their problem, and they should get slightly disciplined for that, or should be really put in the training. I know it's a new technology and they're getting used to it, as all the players are, but I think that I don't think it is going to go away. So a bit like Matt, I'm a bit more on the pragmatic side of let's try and adapt it whilst it's here, because I don't think it's going to go away. I think something like the I don't know, 1 minute or something time limit to review, and having like a margin of error on offside. So it's like if it's more than, I don't know, 10 centimeters, then you just automatically allow it because it's not 100% definite. And I think you just got to make some adaptations, because you know what like football governing bodies are like. They're, once they've got an idea in their heads that they're going to make something work, they're going to keep it for years and years, aren't they? So, and that's the problem. So I think that as long as it's here, it's got to hope that it gets adapted and corrections made.
I mean, I would want to add one thing. Why are refs going to it for every decision? Well, the answer is it's because the abuse they got before VAR. the abuse for making a bad decision or the questions about their integrity. There's a reason why referees have become so dependent on it, because they've become nervous about making mistakes as well. I think,
but they're making even worse mistakes now because they're watching it 30 times. Doesn't
matter though. Doesn't matter. We live in a toxic, social media bubble where something bad happens and it's the end of the world and everybody's screaming down and bearing down on everything. And it's this referee. Oh, he should be sacked and things like this. And you give the referee the tools. Yes, now they are over dependent on the tools, but you're trying to give the referees more options to make the correct decision. And so I do think there is room for VAR. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't think it should be implemented as it is. I think we had the same discussion back in 2017 when it came to the K-League. I think we had the same discussion after the World Cup. Again, you have the same discussion over and over again. It's not going anywhere. This is the game now. If it's not what you signed up for, then I don't want it. I'm not saying I support it. I'm saying I
would just rather come on here, like this entire segment we've been talking about VAR instead of how good of a team Suwon was and how excited we are to see them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I hate. That's what I hate.
Okay, I fully agree with that.
Gyeongnam, good on them. They had a good run at the end of the year. They were sneaky quality all season long, but that's not what we're talking about, because this crap has taken over the game. And I hate it. I hate it. But anyway, we gotta go on. We gotta move on. We could talk about this one forever, but we'd have two other segments to get to quickly. What you got?
Did the right team go up? Were the decisions correct? Did the right team go up?
Yeah.
Were the decisions correct? No. It should have been Daejeon Suwon, and then Suwon shouldn't have had a pen in the 100th minute of the game.
Okay, so then the right team didn't go up then, is what we're saying.
Based on what has happened, I'll never know, because I think that should have been Daejeon Suwon, not Gyeongnam Suwon.
But that is how the league is judged. It's judged on playoffs, so the wrong team went up, is what we're saying.
Suwon was no. I'm perfectly happy with Suwon going up. I'm excited for a Suwon derby. I like the talent they have on that team. I hope they can keep them together. That match should never even happen, because it should have been Daejeon. But anyway, we got to take a break. We got to talk about ACL. We'll be right back.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined this week by Matthew Binns.
Oh.
And George Slade.
Hello.
Gentlemen, let's move on to a slightly more upbeat topic, we'll say. Upbeat for me, I've been enjoying it anyway. Upbeat again for maybe 2 out of the 3 of us here. Let's talk about AFC Champions League, where there's still a lot up in the air. We're recording this Wednesday night, and we know one team is through. Ulsan Hyundai will top Group F. We'll talk about them. And we know that one team is out. Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors have been eliminated in Group H. But we don't know is what's going to happen to the super match rivals, FC Seoul and Suwon Samsung Bluewing. So we'll start in Group E, where since we last talked about FC Seoul, it's been a very interesting couple of games for them. They went out and just thwacked Shanghai United 5-0 with they put on the most shots that they've ever had in a game. They scored a ton. They have scored this many in an ACL match before, but Yoonju Tae had a brace. Jung Han Min got in there. Han Sung-gyu got his first ACL goal. I mean, it was just a tremendous performance. And then all of 3 days later, they came crashing back down to earth and handed Shanghai United not only their first goal, but their first win in ACL. Hard to say that wasn't deserved as well. Shanghai, I thought, looked really great on the night. They countered tremendously well and probably could have got another one out of that. And then Seoul went out and they lost 3-1 to Beijing Goan. And again, that's another one that I think Hard to argue against that one. Beijing looks fantastic. They've won 5 matches in a row for the first time in their history. Jonathan Vieira is playing on another level right now. So I don't think that loss is too upsetting, but I think the one against Shanghai, again, I think Shanghai played really well on the night, but Park Chu-young, you got to convert your pens, my man. You
Comeback
can't.
Player of the Year.
The perennial comeback player of the year in the world for Paul Neat. But I don't think that was all it was for FC Seoul in that one. They unsurprisingly look a little bit directionless right now because they're on their umpteenth manager of the year. And I think that kind of showed through in that second Shanghai match where the Beatles, I love that nickname so much. The Beatles, the emojis all over the place and everything. I love it. Anyway, they needed that win and they came out and they played like it. Whereas FC Seoul could have secured themselves really and gotten through with a win in that one. Not through, but they would have been very comfortable. And they didn't get it done. And now they have to beat Melbourne. And I don't think that's really a guarantee given the way that the Victory have been playing lately. They did draw 2-2 with Shanghai as well after having a 2-goal lead. So they're vulnerable. But to me, Seoul do look shaky. George, have you been watching much of them?
Not so much of Seoul. I did see I saw the first one, so the Shanghai 5-0. So my perception obviously was changed since looking back on those other two results. So like then they look good. It was like, oh, this is a very different Seoul to the one from the league, and like, oh, maybe they're gonna have quite a good tournament. But then it looks like they've sort of fallen back into old habits and been kind of toothless in attack. And the fact that they don't have a manager, like he's not even a manager, is he? He's a scout, isn't he? Yeah. So, which is good job for him to be able to do anything. But I think with Seoul, I'm also not too sure about the Melbourne game. I think that they could sneak the draw, but I think actually getting a win could be very difficult for them.
That's a good point. Yeah, I said they need a win. They don't. They just need a draw. Anything other than a loss will do for them. And as a U.S. fan, all I can think is Trinidad and Tobago and how all we needed to do was not lose to Trinidad and Tobago. And then we did, and we didn't make the World Cup. But Matthew, and we'll move on here quickly because we don't know how this match is going to go. And we'll talk more about them next week if they're still in it. Would this be a big upset for FC Seoul if they don't make it out of this group?
I don't think so, given Seoul's season. I think Seoul. I mean, they've had the new manager bounce, haven't they, in this group with the 5-0, and then I think if they get another caretaker in, before
just
Melbourne,
get one more in.
Yeah, squeeze one more in before the year's out. They've got a chance, but the season they've had, like, they're lucky that they're just still in K-League 1, to be honest. I mean, I know they weren't really in the relegation scrap come the end of it, but it's they've had injuries, but they've also had just poor behind the scenes, managers leaving. It's what was to be expected. The squad has been depleted for this as well, like other squads have in this tournament, and they can't. It's too many games in a row for them, and they're just not going to make it, I don't think. And it shouldn't be an upset. It will be, of course. Every exiting any competition at this stage is upsetting, but
I think the two things they have going for them is that Seoul haven't had a draw in ACL since 2016. That's 13 matches in which they've won 5. And aside from qualifying rounds, Melbourne has never won on foreign soil in ACL. That's 25 matches dating back to 2008. So history's on their side, but history didn't matter when Shanghai put 2 up on them and got their first ever win in the competition. So we'll see what happens there. George, let's move on to Group F with a team that I think all of us here based in Korea have been watching as much as we can. This is Ulsan Hyundai at their high-flying best. You feel like the other shoe is going to drop at some point, but we'll leave that for another time. They look quite good right now. They have already confirmed top of Group F. They're through to the round of 16. They've got another match remaining, but I think that one's just going to be a heavy rotation, and it doesn't really matter there. But how about Yoonbit Garam?
Yeah, he's looked great. Most of the team has looked great. They've scored 6 goals in the 3 matches with 3 different scorers. And yeah, Ewan McGram, he looked like almost like he had not quite something to prove, but maybe like shaking off some of the league demons kind of thing. Because obviously we've had some moments against big teams like John Book, where I think was in the last game against John Book, he hit the post twice from free kicks, or like an earlier game against John Book, he did that in the league previously. So it looks like they're a bit on a mission. Like they really want to end this season on a high, like hopefully with a trophy. And the way they're playing, like just defeating every team that's put in front of them, I really think they could like go quite far in the knockout stages and potentially at least make the final. I think so. They've been very impressive so far, and Ewan Bitgaram has been kind of the focal point of that, I think.
Yeah, you score 2 braces, that's going to happen. I think what was just fantastic watching these games was the 2 Perth games. Kim In-sung and Junior Nagao scored a minute apart, like almost to the minute in 2 games in a row. It was the 89th and 90th minute, Kim In-sung, then Junior in the first game against Perth, and then the second one was the 87th and 89th minute. Just ridiculous efficiency there and all sorts of fun. So you heard it here, by the way. George said they're going to the final, so holding you to that one. If it doesn't happen, Dan, now you know who to blame.
I think we know they're going to the final. I mean, Dan's been calling them runners up for ages, and we all know that's what's going to happen. I mean, the greater the highs with Ulsan, the greater the fall. But no,
the Persepolis fans tuning in are going to love it.
They've been fantastic. Of course they have. They were fantastic for most of the K-League season as well. I mean, we're not surprised by it. We see them. We see them regularly. I'm glad Asia's getting to see what we get to see. I think they just, and I think I like the way that they've scored those late goals as well. That's kind of, I mean, they did score late goals this season, but it shows that kind of tenacity that they're still going on. They're not letting their heads drop, and they're doing well. I mean, good on them getting out the knockouts. I said at the beginning of the season, I expected them to finish 3rd in the league because I thought that they were going to go far in Asia, and well, here's what they very well could do.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, let's move on to a team that we've only seen once because Group G got all sorts of weird with JDT not being allowed to travel, which, having watched some of the games in Group G here, is a big old shame because I really think JDT could have got out of this and it would have been super entertaining to see them in there. But anyway, it's Suwon Samsung Blue Wings, and they had a 1-1 draw with Guangzhou Evergrande. Guangzhou, by the way, just not able to even shoot the ball against Suwon. I think they had 2 shots on target over 2 matches here. Matthew, I'm going to come right back to you on this one because you and I have been talking in chats all week. Park Geun-ha might be the real deal for Suwon.
Can I say it again? It's Pakuna Matata. I will keep saying it until it becomes a thing. But we said when he came in, like what he did with Seoul Eland is he started with the defense and built them from the back, and then moved on to they started winning games at the end of the season, got into near playoffs. They didn't get in that season, but he's just started with the fundamentals, saying, well, we've got to stop them scoring. Yes, Suwon have got a lot of injuries as well. They actually haven't got the attacking talent, so they have to work with what they've got. Yeah, to stop Guangzhou, that's something else. Like that's a big team. That's a Chinese Super League heavyweight, and they genuinely just held them. Really encouraging stuff. I thought they probably should have won. If they'd beaten Guangzhou and got through, it'd be fantastic. Suwon's always been a cup team as well. Get them to those knockouts, and it's one leg. You never know what they're going to do. But yeah, I've been really impressed with him. I hope that give him an off season. If Adam Taggart stays, they could build up something slightly threatening for next year.
Rumors of him moving on to Japan. We'll see how that goes. He's obviously not at this tournament. Interestingly enough, as we've been saying all along, they don't have strikers, but they've attempted 13.5 shots per game in ACL, and only 4 teams have managed more than that. So they're shooting the ball plenty. They're just not tremendously efficient. So real quick here, George, are they going to be able to get the 2 goals that they need? Not just the 2 goals. They have to beat Vissel Kobe by 2. And I mean, Kobe might sleep on this one a little bit because they qualified a long time ago. So I think that they might kind of sleep on this one. Do you think they'll get through? Will Suwon do it?
I hope so. I think the problem is the getting the 2 goals, the winning by 2. I think that if they are to win,
yeah,
then like in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, it's like going to be 1-0 or something like that. I really hope they'll be able to get 2. And with all those shots that you've just said, you never know. Like if you're putting shots towards the goal that many times, a whole bunch of them could go in. So hopefully, I think they could do it. And as you said, Vissel Kobe, they're already through. There's a chance. There is a chance. I'm slightly going to be a bit negative and say no, but only slightly.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's talk about a team that we know won't be making it through, and that is Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors. They are in Group H, which was a ridiculously difficult group. Also, speaking of Group H last night, Sydney FC just went and put 4 up on Shanghai last night. That was all sorts of fun to watch. And so they did Jeonbuk the favor, but Jeonbuk couldn't follow through. They lost to Yokohama F Marinos 4-1. Matthew, this is not the Jeonbuk performance that we're used to seeing.
No, it's not. I think, well, first we should go through could go through all their performances, really. They've been subpar. They were subpar back in February and they were subpar in Qatar, but for 2 very different reasons. I think these recent results, there has to be a degree of empathy, a degree of sympathy with them. I saw a lot of people getting upset, like before this podcast, getting upset with a quote from Jose Moraes, because it was a quote pulled from an interview, and he said he never wanted to play a tournament again with this many injuries, and people latched onto it, criticizing him. Well, it's his fault for not winning the first 2 matches, and yeah, I get it. I'm a Jeonbuk fan, and I believe me when I say I do get it. But in fairness to him, he's just clearly talking about these games in Qatar. So, let's look at it rationally. Jeonbuk, they started 2020 in poor form. They picked up 1 point from 2 games, and they didn't deserve any more based on their performances in those 2 games. They were not very good at all. They were played off the park by Yokohama F Marinos, and they didn't really turn up in Sydney. This was significant damage, and blame should rightly be aimed at the manager and the club's transfer business for that. And if the pandemic hadn't shut everything down, Jeonbuk would have continued to be poor, and they would have continued to have gone out at the group stage. But it didn't happen like that, did it? And the team's circumstances changed. Jeonbuk did improve significantly by the end of the season as the team gelled and reinforcements were made in the summer, and they looked really good by the end of the season. And that team won the title in the FA Cup. It had a genuine chance of rectifying those poor performances in those first 2 games. So credit where it's due to Jose Moraes as well. Yes, there were 2 bad performances, but Jeonbuk went out and they fixed those problems for the rest of the season. However, injuries prevented them. It was kind of touched on last week on the podcast, but yeah, Young, Takahiro Kunimoto ruled out after injuries in both legs of the FA Cup final. Why is it still 2-legged? I don't know.
Correct.
Pointless KFA friendly ruled out their fullback, Lee Ju-young, who, fullbacks are rare at Jeonbuk these days. And it also ruled out the K-League MVP, whether you agree with that or not, but it ruled out Son Jun-ho, which there is no denying how influential he is. Lee Dong-guk retired because he wouldn't be able to cut it. And Kyo-won came into the tournament not fully fit, so we had to make cameo appearances from the bench. Lee Sung-gi, who basically won Jeonbuk the FA Cup, was injured for the tournament. So that's a lot of talent to lose. Yes, there are players in depth, but not to lose that many first team personnel for the whole competition. And yeah, okay, perhaps there should have been more players on the bench with more minutes this season. Perhaps there should have been more rotation. Those players that came in, could have held the fort. I mean, Ulsan handled all the same commitments Jeonbuk did this season, but it was what it was. Jeonbuk burnt themselves out and caught some injuries chasing Ulsan, and some injuries were just out of their hands, like the KFA deciding not to care about Korean players. So, yeah, okay, they shouldn't have lost by that much to Yokohama, but they had to win. So by the end of it, they're just chucking everybody forward when they haven't got the personnel to do that. It was. It was 4-1, and Yokohama are a very good team. Shanghai,
Yokohama might be the real deal.
Yeah, so Am I disappointed? Yes. John Buck buy players to win the Champions League. They don't buy players to win the K-League. They win the K-League because they buy players to win the Champions League. I don't agree that, that I still think there should be some sympathy for them. They just didn't do it. And
sympathy for the devil, if you will.
If you like. But I mean, it's hard to be sympathetic, I guess, when they've got 2 trophies and are clearly the best team in Korea. So there we go.
Oh, okay. We'll just end right there. Fine. Next week we'll pick up and we'll talk about the round of 16 will already be finished by the time that we have our podcast next week. So we'll give you that one, Matthew. I'll let you end that segment there. We'll be right back with the mailbag.
O.G. Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favorites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, O.G. Lewis is sure to become your favorite neighborhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by the ever smug, you can't bring him down, Matthew Binns.
Hello.
And George Slade in a rockin' Korea kit, by the way. For
yeah,
those
great birthday gift.
Oh, hey. Lovely. All right. For those that are listening to the podcast and not watching, you can watch us live on all of our social media channels, and then you can see George's fantastic kit. But for now, Matthew, let's open up the mailbag for the first time in a little while, actually.
Yeah. So first out the mailbag is Michael Baroff on Twitter. You might remember Michael from, he wrote a couple of tactics pieces on our site. One on back threes, which is kind of relating to his question. One is thoughts on John Buck's 3-4-3 versus Sydney. Is it a question of Jose Moraes getting his tactics right, horses for courses, or is it something we might see in the future from John Buck? So I think it was a case of the personnel. It looks like I'm just going to blame everything on the lack of personnel for John Buck. But yeah, they didn't have the players to play they tried to play a 4-1-4-1 in their first match against Shanghai, and they put Ku Jiaorong, normally a centre back, put him out at right back, and he was lost. He was lost. He was so out of sorts out there. So I think they just made the best with the tactics, with the players that they had. In the 3-4-3, 3 centre backs, obviously, but in front of those 2, they put 2 defensive midfielders, giving Isu Bin some rare minutes to kind of just reinforce that defense. And I think it was the right tactics from Jose Moraes against Sydney. I don't think we'll see it in the future. And I also think it was the right decision to play that formation against Yokohama. It didn't work, but I couldn't see any other way of them doing it against Yokohama. They didn't have the midfield, the attacking midfield talent to move forward with it. So they were going to have to stop Yokohama first and try and catch something on the break. So I think
try to stop them anyway.
Well, yeah, try to stop them. So I think it was doing the best with the players that you had. I think it was the right tactics in that sense. But would it be the tactics I would have gone with if I had a full squad? No, but it is what it is. that's how I'm summing up John Buck's season. 2 trophies and just a little jaunt to Qatar. That's how it. Okay. It's not a bad year, really. Anyway, double. Yeah, I can see down in the comments as well. I couldn't resist just picking it out. But just no excuses for John Buck. And he says John Buck still had the squad to compete. They just weren't up for it. Well, yeah, but Ulsan had the squad to compete and they weren't up for winning the league, were they? So, no, I'm joking. Ulsan are great.
Moving on in the mailbag.
I'm somewhere between bitter and smug. All right, I'm really bitter, but I'm also just like, well, oh well. Anyway, as referred on Twitter, I feel out of all the K-League teams that look the best bet to go all the way in the ACL 2020, it has to be Ulsan. But which other team do you think is the most threatening to them?
Ooh, George, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I think that some of the teams that will be the group leaders think that could be opponents in like the quarterfinals and final, like Beijing or Yokohama. I think they're like the two biggest threats in this Eastern zone. And then, yeah, if they do make it to the final, then Persepolis, they've never won the Champions League before, but they have won the last the Iranian league titles. So they're a very dominant side. So I think that those are the three to watch out for later in the competition: Beijing, Yokohama, and Persepolis.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree with that. Yokohama, especially, boy, they look organized. They've been all sorts of fun to watch play as well. Ange Postecoglou's got them playing the way that we would expect. And yes, Matthew, I see you smirking.
I'm smirking it down.
You're smirking it down.
Yokohama I'm having my own conversation.
Yeah, okay. Yokohama is my J League team. Don't worry, it was in 2016 that I picked them, folks. I'm not glory hunting from their title, but if it's not going to be a K League team, then they'd be the ones that I would cheer on. And yeah, they've been fun to watch. Not trying to rub it in here, Matthew, but they were really fun to watch against Jumbuk, just dominating the game. So yeah, I agree with you, George. I think those would be the teams to watch.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to agree with both of you. I think, yeah, good teams to follow. Right. Todd.
Do your job, man.
I am. I was getting the next question out of the mailbag. It's deep in here. There's loads in here.
Reading the mailbag next time.
No, there's loads of mail in here. I'm surrounded by letters. Right, we've got Todd Wild. He's come in on Twitter. Despite their cruel loss, do you agree with a couple of shrewd acquisitions? 2021 will be Gyeongnam's year. He was very impressed with their organisation and awareness, especially defensively, but can't help but think they and Sangju will be favourites next season.
Sangju's the favourite for me. Hands down. They finished in the top half of K-League 1, and they're going to have pretty much the same roster. So to me, it's Sangju. But yeah, George, do you think Gyeongnam's going to be able to compete next year?
Yeah, maybe not for the title, because I think there's a very good chance that Sangju do run away with it. But out of like kind of like the best of the rest, potentially getting second and a good position for coming up via the playoffs, I think it could be Gyeongnam, especially as they like improved a lot during this season. Mm-hmm. They had some real sort of bad spells earlier on, but they really improved, and they always showed quite like tenacity to keep fighting all the way to the very end, the final whistle of every match. So I think, yeah, if they can just strengthen their squads, just a few more signings, and they would probably be, second best in K-League 2 next year, I think.
Yeah, which could be good enough to come straight back up. Yeah, I mean, next year is going to be tough. We'll see what Daejeon invests. But I mean, again, you might as well just hand that shield to Sangju Sangmu right now, because my goodness, I am not looking forward to having them just run riot in K2 next year. The Dragons, 2022 is going to be our year, because it ain't going to be next year, man. Not with Sangju coming down. But yeah, Gyeongnam, I think it's a good shot.
Okay. Next out the bag is L on Twitter. Letter. I'm sorry that you've moved letters everywhere. I tell you that. This is like the Korean post office when I try and send things, right?
My goodness, I don't want to talk about the post office. It's reminding me of the United States post office now. It's a terrible place.
Well, L on Twitter.
So pleasant.
L, the letter L, anyway. 2 matches with the home team winning in a draw. Does the league need to look at this system?
Yes. Yeah. Beforehand, Luke came in about this on Twitter and was saying that it's an unfair advantage. And I mean, the one thing that I do like about it is that it does put emphasis on the regular season. It puts emphasis on what you do over a longer period of time. But having seen 2 1-1s and the higher ranked seed move on and all the controversy there and everything else, no, I don't like this anymore. No, thank you. Please change it. Please have to have a winner. Go straight to pens. I don't care. That's fine. I mean, we don't have to have the players go through extra time after a full-on season. Go straight to pens. I don't care. Fine, but give me a winner. No, please change this.
Yeah, I'm the same pretty much. Like I've said it before, like I would prefer it if it was more like the English Football League system of having like a mini tournament of you could have 4 teams and 2-legged and then the final, but you don't even need the 4 teams. You could just do, third versus fourth 2 legs, and then third versus second 2 legs, and hope that there isn't a pro rel playoff. When that's scrapped, then you could do that. When there's
George,
no pro rel playoff.
Don't mention 2 legs with anything Korean football. The regular season's just going to become 2-legged affairs all over the place. That part of the formatting doesn't bother me. But yeah, you touched on another good thing there. We got to scrap that pro rel final against an 11th place team. Get rid of it. This was so much better. Suwon won and they knew that they were coming up. Get rid of that crap. If you finish 11th out of 12 teams, you're done. Bye. See ya. Go to K-League 2. I liked that aspect of it a lot more this year.
Okay, I'd agree with George's comment really about having something similar to the English playoff system. It'd be great to have 4 teams in contention for a playoff, for a proper playoff final, and then no pro relegation for sure. The pro relegation is it's a weird affair. Like, you've got one team who's desperate to go up, and you got a team who are just down in the dumps. That's not a final anybody want. Well, that's not a final one team definitely doesn't want to celebrate, But anyway,
I think that's the thing of it, right? Yeah, because if you're a fan of the 11th place team, I mean, look at when FC Seoul was there a couple years ago, and that stadium, yeah, it was all right in the away end because it was truly our moniker. It was K-League United. It was every other K-League team against FC Seoul, which was really fun to see. But I mean, FC Seoul fans weren't there for that. They don't want to see that. Like, oh, yay, we beat a team from a division below us over 2 legs and get to stay in the top flight. Ooh, yay. Like, no, that's got to go.
Yeah, and I think it just, it's helping to reinforce status quo. Just get rid of it. Like, we don't need it at all.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have Luke in on Twitter. With VAR being used, it's a VAR question. With VAR being used for apparent, clear and obvious mistakes, etc., should there be a time limit on decisions, i.e. 1 minute, or would that make officials rush and get even more wrong?
Yeah, George, you already brought this up. I agree wholeheartedly. I think a time limit is absolutely necessary at this point. They do it in KBO. I know that they already do that here in KBO. There's a time limit. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, one of my biggest issues is the disruption to the flow of the game. And a time limit would eliminate that. So for me, 100%, please do this.
Anything to add, George?
100%. No, I already said it all earlier. Like, they should.
I stole your argument. Sorry.
Yeah, they should just look at it and then make a decision. I think.
Roll a dice or flip a coin or something.
Just get a D20 out there. Let's make this D&D as much as we can. Yeah. Get some deck modifiers in there.
We've wandered into different podcasts. That's the first touches for another time. The quest to take back John Duke Castle or something. Anyway, right, I am going to climb out of this mailbag now because I'm covered in paper cuts. And if you want to send us your mail, not your bills or anything, but like actual questions and stuff, then you can email them in info@kleagueunited.com, or just send us them via social media, everything at K-League United. Also, if you want to support us, you can support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/K-League United. On there, we have exclusive editorial pieces. We have Saturdays, and we have a Korean overseas series that has just started. Isn't that right, George?
Yeah. I've done some update articles to make up for all of the transfers that happened over the summer, like the slightly delayed transfer window. So yeah, that's got about 2 or 3 coming up very soon.
Okay, and the one that's out right now is looking at K-League players that transferred this year, correct? Like Kim Jin-soo.
Yeah, and then there's other ones of like Koreans who have stayed abroad, they've moved to a different foreign country, and others that have returned home or they're now free agents is another future one.
Excellent. Yeah, the transfer window is it already open?
No, but I think like some of the European ones only,
right.
I think like Portugal, for example, finished like October 25th. So I had to like wait for this very delayed summer because of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you want to read all those, you can find them on Patreon. There's also full player interviews. There's podcast extras. There's lots of stuff going on over there. there's also going to be some pub quiz questions and things to follow up on as well as we get closer and closer to Christmas. But if you want to do that, you can join it for as little as $1, but there's also $3 and $5 tiers available with different bonuses per level.
Yeah, that's right. All sorts of good stuff going on there, and all sorts of good stuff going on Football Nation Radio, which is where you can hear this podcast every Thursday live down there. And again, especially with ACL going on right now, some interesting discussions coming out of Australia, and A-League is getting ready to kick off soon here. So for those living in Korea and a lot of other countries, actually, a lot of folks listening in right now can watch A-League for free on YouTube. So it doesn't need to be a dark, cold winter without any football. Never is. But Asian football, I should say. I know you guys are all about. Well, anyway, let's move on. If you subscribe to this podcast via Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you download your podcast, and leave a review for us, you will be entered into this month's K-League kit contest. And I believe we still have a Suwon FC kit lying around, so I'll dig that out and confirm that. But with their promotion, that feels like the right one to give away this month. We'll see. That might be something. I might put up a vote on Patreon for the patrons to decide which kit we give away. But that is it for us this week. So for George Slade and Matthew Binns, I'm Ryan Walters. Thanks so much for listening.
King Shin